Hey everyone, it's been a minute since I posted. Um, but when you have a YouTube account, just trying to help people, just talking about random things, it's kind of hard to think of some things sometimes. But obviously, you can see we're in a different background today. We're outside, and you kind of know what we're going over if you already saw the title, clicked on the video. Um, we're going over why it's so hard to be a good person sometimes. I don't think people struggle to be a good person because they're bad. I think the struggle I think they struggle because being good asks you to give up things about yourself. They tell you to be kind, people tell you to be patient, people tell you to forgive. But what they don't tell you is what it costs yourself, what it costs you to do those things. Most of the time, the cost is usually you. The cost is yourself most of the time. I used to think being a good person meant doing the right thing. Now I think it mostly means not doing the thing that would make you feel better. Not saying what you could say, not becoming who you could become, not taking the shortcut that would make your life easier at someone else's expense. You know, that restraint, the restraint that it takes you to do those things is what starts to hurt you. That's what it hurts. That's when it hurts. Because anger is easy. Righteous anger feels great. Everybody knows, like, let's say you're driving, you're on like the I-17, you're on the highway. Somebody cuts you off, somebody is going too slow. The immediate reaction is, hey, I need to call this guy some bad words. I need to be mean to this guy because he's making my day longer. He's making my drive take longer. There's a feeling to that. There's comfort in knowing you can rely on anger. It gives you direction, it gives you purpose. It tells you who the enemy is. It tells your conscience who the enemy is. And when you're angry, the world feels simple. But when you try to be good, the world gets complicated. It gets to the point where you can't suddenly see a clear villain. There's just people, there's just motives, there's just damage being passed around. And now you're stuck holding the weight of it instead of throwing it back out into the world. And that's what's hard about it. The fact that instead of being able to toss your anger back out there for somebody else to receive, you have to hold it to yourself. There's this idea that good people are calm, peaceful, emotionally stable, but that's really a lie. Good people can be those things. But good people often feel every sort of emotion. They pause when they want to strike. They walk away when their pride screams for them to stay. And no one applauds it. No one sees it. So to them, it starts to feel pointless. Or maybe to you, when you're trying to be good, it starts to feel pointless. At some point, most people reach the same question. Why am I the only one, and why am I always the one that's trying to do things, trying to be good? Why am I the only one apologizing? Why am I the only one reflecting? Why am I the only one holding back? Why am I the only one getting yelled at for me trying to do the right thing, me trying to do good things? And the really dangerous thought creeps in of, what if I just stopped trying to do those things? What if I just stopped trying to be good? What if I just took the easy route and was just angry at everything? She might be barking for a while, I don't know. She's taking the easy route. She's she's arguing with the whatever dog or whatever she's barking at over there. And back to my point, it's not because they want to hurt people, not because they're not feeling good about themselves. It's because they're tired. They're tired of trying to not hurt other people that it's starting to hurt themselves. The other thing is, anger gives you a story where you're justified. Somebody does something at work. A customer comes in, they say something that doesn't make sense, right? And immediately, if you feel anger, it justifies that reason. They're doing something that is not true, and it justifies that reason. Um, but being good takes that story away. You know, instead of being like, all right, sir, well, I know that's not true, but I'm not going to tell you that. Instead of saying, well, that's actually not true. Let me tell you why it's not true. Let me tell you why it's not true. Let me tell you why I'm right. Instead of doing that, it takes it away from you, and it's almost like, okay, let me try and understand what you're saying. Let me try and understand your point. Let me try and understand why you're mad at the situation. It leaves you with a silence, with uncertainty, with the possibility that no one will ever understand why you chose restraint over retaliation. And, there's also something people don't talk about. When you stop living for anger, when you stop defining yourself by what you're fighting, you don't automatically know who you are. And this light is just going to keep turning off, by the way. It's just an automatic light. Like I said earlier, anger fills space. Purpose fills space. If you have something to do, it's filling that void that you feel like, well, I'm just being lazy today. I don't have anything to do. But then you have something to do, right? You got to go to the mall, you got to go shopping, you got to go whatever. And it fills that spot in you. And most of the time, instead of being a good person, you feel you could be angry about it. You could be angry about, I got to get up and I got to get dressed, I got to go to the store, I got to go get groceries. But if you live like every day is a new learning experience, personally, it makes me feel great. I'm learning something new every day. I'm learning how to do this, I'm learning how to do that, rather than I have to do this, I have to do that. And when those things start to disappear, you start to feel a vacuum. If you start to feel a vacuum is like pulling you in, it's sucking you in. And a lot of people go back to being cruel not because they love it, but because it gives them an identity. It gives them something to rely on. It gives them something to fall back on. Being good forces you to sit with emptiness long enough to build something better. And that takes time. Building things takes time. You ever build a Lego set, a bigger one? It takes time, right? Patience, forgiveness, all of that takes time to build up. And the main part that people don't like to admit is, sometimes being good doesn't really change anything. It doesn't really make anything better. The person doesn't change, the apology isn't accepted, the outcome stays the same. You just get to live with knowing you didn't ruin somebody else's life. That's all you get most of the time. And it feels like a reward, but it feels like a pity reward, you know what I mean? And here's what I'm really trying to get at. There's a moment, usually after loss or regrets or exhaustion, where hurting others didn't fix what hurt you, winning didn't heal you, being right didn't save you. So now you're left with, a choice, a feeling in your heart, not between a good and evil choice or feeling, but between continuing the cycle or letting it end with you. Do I continue to be a good person? Do I continue to be doing these things? Or do I let that cycle end with me? Because I just couldn't keep doing it. I just couldn't keep feeling this emptiness and this hatred in my heart. And ending the cycle doesn't feel good. It feels like surrender. When you end something that you really wanted to do, it feels like a surrender. It feels like putting a weapon down while you're still fighting. It feels unfair. But there's a strange strength in choosing not to pass that pain forward, and choosing not to define yourself by what could destroy you. And that strength doesn't really look impressive. It looks quiet, it looks tired, it looks like someone's still trying even when no one's watching. That brings in some integrity into it. Being a good person isn't hard because people don't do it. It's hard because it requires you to grow past the parts of yourself that once kept you alive, like that anger and all that. And letting go feels like dying even when you know it's not. If you struggle with anger just like everybody does, it doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you're trying to understand the hardest path. And there's nothing that fixes that. No philosophy, no quote. It's just time and repeated choice over and over. And it won't make you a hero, but it'll let you live without hating yourself. And sometimes it's all you can do. So I'm not gonna try and take another 3.5 months absence, but if I have to get a good video out, I will. So hopefully you guys can think about that, just like I've been thinking about it for a while. See ya.